House, the first White House state dinner hosted by President Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump. Also tonight, we have a lot of news to get to. The U.S. is now making significant diplomatic progress on the Korean Peninsula and all around the world. In just a few moments, we will break down what are just remarkable developments put in motion by policies of peace through strength. By the way, something just unthinkable in the Obama years of appeasement. Plus, tonight, we'll reveal why many in the mainstream media are actively actually rooting for the administration to fail on the world stage. Sadly, it's not happening for them. And spoiler alert, it doesn't have anything to do with Russia. Russia, stormy. Next, we have a brand new damning report breaking right here on this show. Sarah Carter revealing that fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe may have actually given a stand-down order during the initial phase of the Clinton email investigation. Also, Chairman Goodlatte, Chairman Gowdy, they just struck a deal with the Department of Justice to turn over previously unreleased documents related to Hillary Clinton's private email server investigation. Now, we're going to analyze all of this and so much more in tonight's very important breaking news opening monologue. All right, as you just saw, President Trump moments ago wrapping up a toast with the French president at the first state dinner. Now, this special relationship blossoming between the president and President Macron, it's just one aspect as what of huge Trump diplomatic success. Now, the mainstream media won't report this, but the Trump administration, they are making incredible strides all over Asia. In fact, with every passing day, the U.S. is now getting closer and closer to holding direct talks with North Korea. Now, just this week, the dictator, Kim Jong-un, made a series of concessions, including the suspension of all ballistic missile testing, the closure of a nuclear development site, and North Korea's rocket man even dropped a demand that the U.S. troops leave the Korean Peninsula. Now, earlier today, President Trump lauded this progress and even had kind words for Kim Jong-un and his newfound willingness to compromise on the world stage. Watch this.
Kim Jong-un he really has been very open and I think very honorable from everything we're seeing. Now, a lot of promises have been made by North Korea over the years, but they've never been in this position. I hope that we will be able to deal in a very open and honorable fashion with North Korea. I started a process, and when I did, everybody thought I was doing it absolutely wrong. But in the meantime, for 25 years, people have been dealing and nothing happened, and a lot's happening right now. I think we're doing very well. Meetings are being set up, and I want to see denuclearization of North Korea. A lot of concessions have already been made. We have made no concessions, despite some of the media saying that I've made concessions. I haven't even discussed a concession.
All right, naturally, instead of reporting the diplomatic progress on the Korean Peninsula, which the whole world gets safer if it works, well, your mainstream media, of course, twisting those remarks in order to trash the president once again and, of course, distract their viewers from Trump's undeniable initial success all over the world stage. Let's take a look at this.
He said that North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un has been very open and very honorable in how they have been dealing with, I guess, planning out their meeting to come. What do you make of that?
It's quite a strong adjective to use for a dictator of a nation that imprisons its people.
He talked about how great Kim Jong-un is being.
You must talk about this just for a moment.
Yeah.
Did he call him a great leader?
What, he didn't. I don't know if he used the word great leader.
Honorable.
He said honorable.
Honorable.
Yeah.
And
open. Call him honorable and open. I don't know if you can, in real terms, whether you can ever call him open.
If any other president, Democrat or Republican, had used such words, Donald Trump would have been the first person to say it's outrageous to say that a dictator, to someone who represses all the human rights in his country, that lets his people starve, that takes Americans as hostage, is open and honorable.
When I heard the word honorable, I thought of the Otto Warmbier's parents, who sat in these two seats with me just so many months ago talking about their son who was tortured in North Korea. How is Kim Jong-un honorable?
There's nothing honorable about Kim Jong-un. He's a sociopath.
Well, you just saw another example, the mainstream media attacking this president no matter what he does. If he gave $10 million to every person on earth, they'd say, why not 11? I guess they forgot about all of Trump's peace through strength strategy and how it's working, where the United States, remember, we sent multiple carrier strike groups to the region. We increased the sanctions on this rogue regime. We pressured China, and they helped. Oh, yeah, and the president called out Little Rocket Man's terrible treatment of his own people in a very clear and public way without backing down. The media is not used to this.
No one has shown more contempt for other nations and for the well-being of their own people than the depraved regime in North Korea. It is responsible for the starvation deaths of millions of North Koreans and for the imprisonment, torture, killing, and oppression of countless more. The horror of life in North Korea is so complete that citizens pay bribes to government officials to have themselves exported aboard as slaves. They would rather be slaves than live in North Korea. No regime has oppressed its own citizens more totally or brutally than the cruel dictatorship in North Korea. North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear missiles could very soon threaten our homeland.
All right, time for a history lesson. Remember, it was only a few months ago the mainstream media said that Donald Trump's tough action, his rhetoric, it would result in a nuclear holocaust. This was their predictions. Watch this.
The idea of a nuclear showdown with North Korea keeps you up at night? I would recommend deleting your Twitter app.
He is not merely being cavalier with a threat about nuclear war. He's being cavalier in a way that makes him seem demented.
These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
President Trump is goading Kim Jong-un to test a nuclear missile again, to prove its reliability, to show him wrong. And fundamentally, I think it comes across as two kindergartners who are jostling each other, except that each has nuclear weapons.
Well, here's what...
Too late after 100,000 Americans die.
After a nuclear holocaust.
Or after a million die in Seattle.
And that's where we are. This is not an exaggeration.
Trump's comments about nuclear weapons have experts worried he could literally inadvertently trigger a catastrophe.
Catastrophe. All right, let's get this straight. President Trump takes very tough action, and the media has a meltdown. This strategy actually brings Kim Jong-un to the negotiating table, talking about denuclearization of the entire Korean peninsula. The president makes encouraging remarks, and the media still has a meltdown. You know what the media didn't have a meltdown over? How about Obama's appeasement of the mullahs in Iran in what is probably the dumbest single deal in the history of mankind, where the United States of America, where your ex-president gave away $150 billion of your dollars, cargo planes full of cash and other currencies, to a regime that chants death to America, death to Israel on a weekly basis, burns our flag, burns the Israeli flag, all because of a promise from Iran to temporarily halt their nuclear weapons program, but they still got to spin their centrifuges, and we didn't get to inspect anything. That's the dumbest deal ever. You also didn't see a media freakout. Remember Bill Clinton? He said, there's a good deal for American people. His appeasement of North Korea, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father. Remember this diplomatic dereliction? Take a look.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons. South Korea, with support from Japan and other nations, will bear most of the cost of providing North Korea with fuel to make up for the nuclear energy it is losing. And they will pay for an alternative power system for North Korea that will allow them to produce electricity while making it much harder for them to produce nuclear weapons. The United States and international inspectors will carefully monitor North Korea to make sure it keeps its commitments. Only as it does so will North Korea fully join the community of nations.
Didn't work out too well. So it's time to learn from the failures on the world stage. Appeasement never works. It incurs aggression. Now, this is something former President Reagan knew all too well, which is why he refused to relent, refused to appease, refused to placate the Soviet Union, the former evil empire, as he described them. Now, back then, many on the left were also predicting the worst, that Reagan would bring us to the brink of nuclear war. And what happened? The Berlin Wall came tumbling down.
There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And the wall came down. We'll have more on President Trump's significant diplomatic progress all throughout the show. We'll show you how bribing dictators and kissing the rings of despots and murderers has failed all throughout history. Now let's turn to a brand new explosive report from our own Sarah Carter, uncovering a damning new revelation about what is serious misconduct at some of the highest levels in our government. Now, according to Sarah tonight, multiple sources are saying that fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe issued a stand-down order during the initial phases of the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. And according to Carter's sources tonight, McCabe was overseas when he became aware of the investigation and sent electronic communications voicing his displeasure with agents, in other words, doing their job. One FBI official tells Sarah Carter, quote, McCabe tried to steer people off the private email investigation that appears to be obstruction and should be investigated. Now, this, of course, comes on the heels of the IG report on McCabe's firing, revealing, quote, McCabe said that a high-ranking Obama Justice Department official expressed concerns about FBI agents taking overt steps in the Clinton Foundation investigation during the presidential campaign. So it's clear that during the 2016 presidential election, the deep state, as we have now been reporting over a year, was alive and well. Now, we have reached out to Andrew McCabe for comment. We have yet to hear back. And also breaking tonight, Sarah Carter just tweeted out, DOJ will make the 6 months of missing texts that were eventually located by the IG, that's Horowitz, between Strzok and Page, available to Congress sometime tonight or tomorrow, according to sources. That's developing. We will comb through all of those texts if and when they become available. This is a huge development. And meanwhile, we know the two House committee chairmen, Bob Goodlatte, Trey Gowdy, they are making huge strides on their efforts to hold this deep state accountable. Now, this week, the two Republican congressmen, in fact, struck a deal with the Department of Justice and will now gain access to documents surrounding the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton and how she mishandled classified information on her unauthorized private email server. Now, these new developments should shine a light on why James Comey gave white glove special treatment to Hillary while turning a blind eye to her serious crimes. Do we have equal justice under the law? Now, tonight, there's a new report. James Comey is lawyered up, and he has, in fact, tapped a personal friend, former U.S. attorney, to help him navigate the current muddy legal waters surrounding him. We did reach out to Comey's attorney for comment. He said he's been a part of Comey's legal team since May of 2017. News to me. Now, tonight, I have some friendly advice for Comey's lawyer. You might want to acclimate your client with 18 U.S.C. 793 about leaking classified information, which is a serious crime, and your client needs to be held accountable. I have said many times this year, 2018 is the year of the boomerang, and now it's time for the disgraced former FBI director to answer for his deliberate, improper, and now potentially criminal actions. I have told you this is the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in the history of this country. The media has been entirely missing in action the entire time. And the same can be said of the many people at the highest levels of power. Sadly, no wonder why they attack me.